Welcome to the Brady Bunch of Autism, your source for family, parenting, and all things autism and special needs. Created by our family for your family. Live from the Ed Asner Family Center. And now your hosts, Nava and Matt Asner.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to the Brady Bunch of Autism. I'm Matt Asner, and I am Nava-less today. So it's just me and my guest host, who I'm going to bring in a minute. We're here today in beautiful Southern California at the Ed Asner Family Center. It's been a while since we've had a show, so I'm happy to be here. We've got a lot to talk about today, including a wonderful the second Ed Talk that is going to take place on the 29th of June, and it's going to be this great subject called the Women of Autism. And we got a lot of special, wonderful guests there that are going to come on and talk about being a woman and being on the spectrum. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring my guest host in because she can help me get through this solo. And that is Shannon Penrod. Shannon.
Hi.
You need no introduction because you are Shannon Penrod. And basically, you guys have set the mark for podcasts. And you are the Autism Podcast. And I
don't know about that. But, here's this wonderful opening, and it says with Matt and Nava. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to be so bummed when they find out that Nava's not here and I'm here instead. Because, nobody can be Nava except for Nava. But I'm thrilled to be here.
No one could be bummed more than me.
I'm sure. I'm a poor substitute, and I cop to that entirely. But I'm here supporting for the team.
Well, so the last time, I'm trying to remember the last time. We did your show right before the poker tournament.
Yes.
And yes. I got to ask, did you watch the poker tournament?
I so did. I missed a chunk of it because it was the day after my son graduated from high school, and my niece was here, and there was airport trips and everything. And so I missed about an hour and a half because I had to go get him at a graduation party. But we were sitting there riveted, my husband and I, because obviously we're big fans of the center. We're big fans of the cause. We're big fans of you and Nava. And we're ginormous Triumph the Insult Dog fans. And I love me some Rosie. So that was all. Then you had all these other things like your dad. They were all just icing on that beautiful cake. We loved it. Thought it was so enjoyable to watch, Matt. And I had said to you, because I've seen you for 5 seconds since then, I just think what you guys are doing is so important. And I was so glad that so many people stepped up and supported. It was lovely.
It was a wild ride. It was wonderful, and and I think it wasn't perfect, but it was certainly, I think, enjoyable by most people. And I think if you watched, I think you saw something really special. I've got to thank the people who were involved in that specifically. Oh, my son Will is saying hi to us both. So
hi, Will. Happy graduation.
I will say that the event producer we had, Dan Coe, was amazing, as was Milo Nichols, who's my assistant here at the center. He had a home run. Amber Ayers, who did all the graphics and really worked her butt off to get everything looking so good. So
and can I just say this, because I've been doing a live show I'm in my 10th year now of doing a live show, and I've learned a thing or two about it. And before that, I was doing live theater. That was my thing. And people who go to see things live, we're not looking for perfect, Matt. Nobody's ever looking for perfect. We're looking to be a part of the experience. And I felt that so I wasn't interested in perfect. I would have been disappointed if you'd done it all perfectly. That would have been like watching a recording. So I loved all of it, every little bit of it. And I think that anybody who loves live stuff felt the same way. So perfect.
There's irony here, because I actually I was a producer for a long time before I started working in autism, and the last thing I did as a producer, well, I mean, I did a few things after that, but the last thing I did as a producer outside of autism was a concert that I did in Israel with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra and Renee Fleming and Joseph Kalea. Just a big, big deal. And we went to 500 theaters in the U.S. And everything was going great. It was no problem, no problem at all. And we got we had a great tech run through. Everything was going perfect, too perfect, little too perfect, Shannon.
Yes.
Little too perfect.
That's always a bad sign.
Yes, I know. So we ended up about 5 minutes before we went live, before the red light went on, and I get a call from New York, and New York says, "Yeah, we're not getting your digital signal, and unless we get it in 5 minutes, you're dead." And I was like, "Oh my God."
That's a heart attack in the making.
So the guys that were working for us, they all literally got up at the same time and stormed out of the truck and started arguing in Hebrew outside of the truck. And left my partner Danny Gold and I to just kind of sit there and spin and try to figure it out. We had built a half an hour of fixed time into the show. So if anyone made any mistakes, we would have enough time to redo it. And we ended up eating into that, trying to solve the problem. And about 10 minutes before the end of that half hour, we were told that we were recording in digital, but we just couldn't broadcast in digital. So I said, well, what if we broadcast in analog or in Dolby, whatever, and they just kind of digitize it on the New York end. And they said, yes, we'll do that. We can do that. But if anyone complains, you got to give them their money back. And I said, fine, we'll write them a check. So we ended up being okay. I think 2 people asked for their money back, but wow. I said right then and there that I would never do another live broadcast. And here we are doing live broadcasts on a regular basis, So it was a long story, but I apologize for the long story, but
oh my gosh, no, that's great. And you survived that. I think that's the joy of doing things live, is that it's like performing without a net. You don't know what's going to happen. I love it.
It's a wonderful thing, but when something like that happens, it's not wonderful. So it's that was a rough ride. I've got a couple people commenting here, and I just wanted to say Ed's great. So are you guys. All right. That's Zapod Bibelbrox. Okay. There we go. That's a name.
I agree.
And he said, no pressure, huh? No pressure. That's right. And then Rodimus Para. And you know who Rodimus Para is, right?
I know the name, but I'm having a brain.
Rodimus Para was one of the great child actors of the 1970s. He was the grasshopper in Kung Fu. And an old friend of ours. And Rodimus, it's nice to see you watching. Go to bed now, because he's in France. So we're gonna talk a few stories, and then we're gonna get our first guest in. So I'm hoping, Chelsea, do you have a time limit? I'm gonna see if Chelsea has a time limit. If she has a time limit, I'll bring her in first. But
yeah, whatever order we need to do stuff in.
Shake your head yes or no if you have a time limit. No time limit. Okay. I'm going to bring you in like 10 minutes, okay? Okay. Thank you. So, all right. So, I've got a couple of stories that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And they're both interesting stories. So, the first one, and they're both kind of stories that kind of pissed me off a little bit. So, the first one is these 2 graduate students who uncovered a critical error in autism screening guidelines. And I'm going to read a little bit from the article, and then we can talk about it. So when clinicians suspect someone has autism, they often turn to screening tools, standardized questionnaires or checklists that measure autism traits. If a high score corroborates their hunch, they refer the person to a specialist for a diagnostic evaluation. It's pretty normal. These screening tools typically come with guidelines to aid clinicians in their use, but the guidelines also inform researchers who are screening potential study participants a use that ultimately shapes how researchers define autism, says Puneet Shah, Associate Professor of Psychology at the University of Bath in England. In the United Kingdom, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE, authors a variety of screening tool guidelines, among others. And earlier this year, 2 of Shah's graduate students discovered that NICE guidelines for one particular test, called the Autism Quotient 10, AQ10, were wrong. They published their findings in the Lancet Psychiatry in April. Last week, on the 14th of June, NICE issued a statement confirming that they would correct the error. We were concerned that the guidelines weren't going to be changed, Shah said after her announcement. We were consequently really pleased to see that NICE had taken the issue seriously and have dealt with it promptly. So the issue was, coming back to Shannon, the issue was they basically say that if it's a quotient of 10, so they score it, and if you get 6, the language was if you get over 6, then you are referred to a diagnostic, a diagnosis of autism. It really should have said if it's 6 or over. So
I did see this story. Yeah. I did see this story. I know exactly what you're talking about. Isn't it crazy?
It is
and that it took 2 grad students to find this.
But here's the issue. So it took 2 grad students. So it took 2 grad students finding this to uncover it, but it's been in existence for 10 years.
Yeah.
So the big question, of course, is, oh my God, how many people scored a 6 and did not get referred for diagnosing?
Yeah.
And could have been treated and could have gotten help, through and some sort of therapy. I think it's kind of crazy.
It's beyond crazy, and it's not all that atypical for these kinds of things to happen, because they make these tests and then there's a key to follow it. And if people don't read the key, real lives are affected by this. And I will tell you, the biggest concern is who qualified to be referred to a specialist and what did they miss out on. But exactly. I always want to know, I always ask the question, who benefited from this and where's the money gone? Because when you think about it, there's a whole bunch of people who may not have gotten a diagnosis, who were qualified to get a diagnosis. And I want to know who benefited from that, because that's always interesting to me.
Have they uncovered, here's a comment. Oops. Have they uncovered why they missed autism in women so much? So there's no such thing as male-female autism. That's a good question, but totally different set of criteria that we're talking about, though. But that's a great topic for another discussion.
Absolutely, especially since you're going to have the women in autism ed talk. That would be a great question.
I'm adding that to our list of questions because I think that's a great question to ask the team that's going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, I think that something like this is it's grounds for a huge class action suit, obviously, and I think that like you said, how many people missed out on a diagnosis and treatment, because they didn't get referred. If you do the math, it's 1 in 54 children on the spectrum are being diagnosed on the spectrum, correct? How many children are born every year? I mean, it's just, the math is stunning. So they need to kind of answer that question very quickly, I think, and backtrack and find all those 6s that didn't get through. I think.
Absolutely. And for the families in Great Britain to go back And to follow up with each and every one of those families, because you and I both know how many times have we heard this story where somebody went and thought maybe my child is, they didn't get the diagnosis, and then 3, 4, 8 years later, someone else said, oh yeah, your kid is so on the spectrum. And then of course they mourn everything that they've lost during that time period. It's horrible.
Well, I mean, I was part of a diagnostic program. Must have been 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And we were seeing people who were 12 or 13 and had limited verbal skills and had gone through public elementary schools without a diagnosis.
It's unconscionable.
It's crazy. But I mean, I'm not going to say I understand it because I don't understand it, but I do understand how we got into this mess, or how we're in this mess, because it's all about money. Of course, money makes the world go round, and there's a finite amount of it, and you can't print money. And so what happens when you're in a situation where your departments are overloaded and under budgeted? You start overlooking things, and you start looking the other way on a lot of things, and it's wrong and awful. But unfortunately, it's a part of society, and we just have to uncover it and show it as much as possible.
And as parents, we have to be so diligent on behalf of our children. I used to be a trusting person. And then I had a child diagnosed with autism, and that went all the way out the window and around the corner and down the block. Now I don't trust anybody. I go, you're going to have to show that to me in writing. I want to see the thing. I'm that kind of person now, because we have to be our kids' advocates until they can advocate for themselves. And then the minute they can advocate for themselves, we need to step back as quickly as we can manage. But it's hard to shift gears. But those are the things that we have to do. I
agree. And so I have a second story, but I'm gonna actually save that because I want to bring our next guest in, our first guest, actually, our first and last guest, and we're going to talk to
I'm
Chelsea.
A huge fan.
We're going to talk to Chelsea Darnell. Chelsea Darnell, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
We're good. My co-host is Shannon today. So.
And Chelsea, I am one of your biggest fans, Chelsea.
Thank you, Shannon.
I think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, honestly.
Thank you.
Well, I think she's actually much better than sliced bread, and as well, I think. And Chelsea does so much incredible work here at Asner Family Center. It's hard to actually keep up with, the amount of stuff that she's doing here. She is our autistic ambassador and social director here at Asner Family Center. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing young lady.
Thank you.
I'm proud to know her.
Thank
and
you.
She's darn good on a red carpet. Hopefully we'll have a red carpet pretty soon.
Thank you.
Get back out there. Chelsea's also our host for Movie Chats. And so Movie Chat, that's coming up, right? We have one coming up.
Yeah, so actually I'm not going to be hosting it this weekend. My good friend and very loyal Movie Chat member, Hannah, her name is Hannah Schindler. She's going to be taking over for me this week because I have a birthday party to go to.
All right. But you gotta do birthday parties every now and then, Chelsea. Right?
Yep.
All right. So what is the film for this weekend?
Everybody is going to be discussing Shrek.
Okay.
Great movie. It's one of my favorites. I wish I could be there for it. But Hannah, who is Hannah's a very valued member of the center. She's a very loyal member of my Movie Chat. I couldn't think of anyone better to take over for me for the week. She's substituted for me once before when I had birthday celebration. She's a fantastic person.
I agree 100%. And I'm excited to hear how she does. She did the one like a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yes, she did.
Yeah. And so Shrek. Now, Shrek was originally supposed to be voiced by Chris Farley.
I knew this. Actually,
yeah.
I think they recorded the voices and then he they animated it to look like him, and then he died, and it went all,
Then Mike
into
Myers,
frenzy.
I didn't know that. That breaks my heart.
right? Yeah.
Ah,
No, that's tragic because Chris Farley was a talented guy. I still find myself every time I see that Tommy Boy is on, and I know it's like a ridiculous film, but every time Tommy Boy is on, I sit down and I watch it and I laugh, and that is a funny movie. And
oh, well, him doing the Chippendales with Patrick Swayze is my favorite gif. I send that to people all the time. He was hilarious. Such a
I
loss.
said that Chris Farley was actually neurodivergent as well. He didn't have autism, but it's actually said that he probably had OCD. Whenever he would go, whenever he was at SNL, he would do this thing where he would run down the halls and he would have to touch all of the pictures.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wasn't that
it was in the
a
documentary
pregame-
about him, I think.
a pregame, obsessive compulsive thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really wild. Wow. And so Movie Chat 2.0, you don't have one this weekend.
We do not have movie chat. Now they're all sort of amalgamated. Now it's just one big giant movie chat.
It's one. Okay. And you guys, I mean, it's so great because this has been a part of the center since the pandemic, started really. And to see how much this has grown and how wonderful it is that you have a real group there that meets every week. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. It's I think really what we originally envisioned with this, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It's way better than I was thinking, to be honest. Like, I just wanted, like the beginning of the pandemic, I just wanted to, get a group together online so that nobody would have to talk. People could just talk about movies without worrying about all that other stuff in the world. And now it's just launched into this really cool thing, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, well, you should be. I'm proud of you,
Yes.
and I'm proud of it. And
Thank you.
And can I say that this whole last year and a half, I've been talking to parents since day one, and they'll, they contact me and they're like, I don't know what to do. And, I usually have a bag of tricks that I can pull things from and say, well, how old is your kiddo? And, maybe this or try this or whatever. But, then the pandemic came, and in the beginning, my bag of tricks, like I would like for it to get bigger and bigger and to have less and less of a price tag on the things in the bag. But then we got into the pandemic, and more there've been parents and caregivers of teens and young adults, and them saying there's just nothing in the pandemic. And I was so proud of you guys, of the center, and of you, Chelsea, that anytime somebody called me with that, I was like, oh, there's this amazing thing. It's Movie Chat with Chelsea Darnell. And your teen can go to it. Your adult can go to it. And then the person would say to me, oh, yeah, but I just don't have any extra money. I'm out of work. And I would be able to say, no, it's free. You just have to register. It was just always the best thing, the go-to that I could say to people. This is available to you. It was really an amazing gift that you guys gave the world during the pandemic. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. So before we get to the Ed Talks, I want to just mention one other thing you're involved with right now, and you're involved with so much that we're doing. So one of the things that you're doing a lot right now is you're working with us on the dating spectrum, and so the dating spectrum is a dating social group program that the Ed Asner Family Center is running, and we are. The dating world is one of the most coded, seemingly exclusive clubs that one can enter into, and it's frightening and scary, and well, that's the same thing, but it's frightening for anyone. But for people on the spectrum, there's a lot of things that we don't necessarily think about, and so this is all being kind of brought into a program here at the Ed Asner Family Center, and we're helping people through this coded world of dating and social interaction. And Chelsea, you've been a huge part of that. And you want to talk a little bit about that and just say what you guys are doing? You had dating simulations this
Sure.
week.
Basically, we as Matt mentioned, we have a new dating program at the Ed Asner Center. We basically, what we do right now, we have like you have a small support group, and we basically give them skills and tips on dating, asking people out. We've done role plays on how to ask people out, or what to do when like you're on a date and like somebody's not paying attention or something like that. We do like role play situations. And it's really cool. And we're actually, we're trying to, our goal is to have like more in-person mixers as well. We're, I think, having our first one on Thursday. But it's obviously going to be a limited amount of people, just for some extra safety. But it's going to be really nice to do stuff in person. But this is very new, and I'm really excited about where this program is going to go.
Well, it's run by you and Chris Assad and Megan Bytel and one of our other clinicians, it's one of the programs that is really, really exciting. I mean, all of our programs are exciting, but it's something we started recently that I think a lot of people are excited about. And how do people find out about this? Let's say that they can write Chrissa if they want.
Yes, we also have an Instagram for the program. It's called The Dating Spectrum. If you just look up The Dating Spectrum on Instagram, and you can get information there, or you can email Chrissa. Is it Chrissa at TEAFC, or is it at AsnerFamilyCenter.org?
It's Chrissa at TEAFC.org. So it's CHRISA at TEAFC.org. So, and now we're going to switch to the Ed Talks. The Ed Talks is something that we've started here at the Ed Asner Family Center. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is an open talk sort of forum. We have our last one, our first one, featured Valerie Gilpier and Emily Groden, who have a new book out called "I've Been Buried Under Years of Dust." Did I get that right? I did get that right.
I think it's 100 Years of Dust, isn't it?
100 Years of Dust?
I don't know. I'm making things up now.
Okay, but you can find the book at Amazon and any retailer that you want to go to. Amazing book, and we had them on our first Ed Talk, and our second Ed Talk is on June 29th, and it's something called the Women of Autism, and Chelsea Darnell is an honored guest, as is Amy Gravino. I'm going to try and get everyone right. Amy Gravino. Amy Fagan,
and Lindsay Nebeker.
And I said Amy Gravino, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So that's a motley group of women there.
That's a powerful panel.
That is a lot of power there, and so that's going to be a wild, interesting hour and so of talk about the women in autism, and what might we expect from that night, Chelsea?
It's a great question. To be honest, I'm actually quite nervous, and I'll tell you why. I have a lot of respect for the two Amy's and Lindsay, but I already know that they're going to have I am going to have some opinions that I am 99% sure they will fundamentally disagree with. And they could act, and honestly, some of the opinions I have could actually get me in trouble. And I want to choose my words carefully, because these are women that I have a lot of respect for. And I know that they're going to disagree with me on many things, and I'm going to disagree with them on many things. But hopefully we can find some common ground. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a very healthy conversation.
Well, I'm going to say this, as if that's not a reason to tune in, I don't know what is.
I was going to say, I'm hoping for that. I don't want you to be nervous about it or worried about it, though, Chelsea. But I think, if that's a setup for, I think, what could be the best possible talk ever. Because if you had a panel of 4 women who all said the same thing, I would want to take everybody's temperature. It wouldn't matter what the panel was about, right? 4 women are not going to agree about everything or anything.
I agree with you 100%, Shannon. I think this world it makes people nervous. I mean, I just think it does. And I think, divergent opinions here are something that everyone's afraid of. And I don't know why. I think, the more we discuss this, the more we get things on the table and discuss things in a calm and respectful fashion, I think the more we're going to be able to see each other's way.
And by the way, what I'm about to say is not anything towards the panelists that are going to be with me. They are wonderful women. They're amazing. This is more just about the community in general. There's a huge gatekeeping problem, and a lot of autistic voices and experiences are being gatekept and gaslit. We are the people who have there's a lot of debate about certain therapies and certain things. And then when some of us say that we had good experiences, we're gatekept. When some of us have, when some of us, for some people there's also debate around functioning labels. I think I agree that it's a slippery slope. But I have no problem if people want to use that as a self-descriptor, if that's what they're used to. But I know that there are plenty of people in my community who would, it's not even just that they would fundamentally disagree, but people like me would be gatekept. And that's very sad, because I think it stops us from actually solving these issues and what we can do so that we can actually collaborate with psychologists, autistic people, and their parents.
Look, it's really the same thing for parents, right? It's really the same thing for parents. I go into every conversation I have with people, who are parents of, autistic individuals or an autistic individual. I go into every conversation that I have with people saying, look, they have their own experience. You have your experience, and you've got to just, give them their experience, and they've got to give you your experience. And I try not to argue with people. I think I'm fairly successful at not arguing with people, but I think we have to get to a point where we realize that everyone has their own experience and everyone owns their own experience. It's not, and we have to understand that Chelsea Darnell has her own experience. Shannon Penrod has her own experience. Different things might have worked for us. Controversial things might have worked for us. And you know what? It worked for us. And that's, once we get to that point, I think then we can have open conversations, respectful conversations.
Absolutely.
And conversations where we're going to be able to go somewhere. And I think, yeah.
And definitely. And I know that the three other women that are going to be with me on this panel, wonderful women, I know that they have their own authentic, unique experiences. And I hope that what I would hope for the people that are viewing that want to tune into this is that all four of us are validated for our own individual experiences. That's really what I hope for. They are probably going to, there's a very good chance that I will have things I disagree with them on and vice versa. But I hope that all of you watching will see all four of our experiences as valid.
You know what I love about that? We say all the time, when you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum. But then if we don't give everybody an opportunity to have their voice, we don't allow the public to see that. So I hope that you guys don't agree on everything.
Yeah, and you know what's really difficult?
To see that.
It's actually really difficult. Like, the bigger problem, it isn't even when neurotypicals, I don't even know how I feel about that word, because I don't think there's such a thing as neurotypical. But when it's my problem isn't even with non-autistic people. It's when autistic people try to silence me, that almost hurts more. Or silence voices like me. Not me personally, but voices like mine. When they silence voices like mine, that somehow hurts more, because we're supposed to be sort of in solidarity with each other. And that's very sad, Yeah.
Well, and I agree with you. I mean, I think that we have to live, in an open way, and we have to understand each other, and we have to try to understand each other. I think that's,
we have to be curious. We have to be curious and open. I'm curious about what each one of these four women think about different things. I want to be curious and open to that and learn from it.
I agree, and I think that's something we've become so kind of myopic about everything, and everything is so focused right now on this, and we're all focused on this, and all of our information comes from this, and we're all kind of just so focused on.
I blame social media for that, by the way.
I do too. But how do we escape that? How do we escape that that world that we've created for ourselves? We can't really do that, can we? We can't.
A good movie.
A good movie
will do that for us.
We'll talk about that in a second. Chelsea, so that's on June 29th at, I believe, 5:00. Yeah, 5:00 Pacific time. Please tune in. Join us live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and wherever else you can. It's going to be a wonderful evening, probably a fiery evening here and there. But Nava and I will be moderating, so we won't let it get too fiery. And it'll be fun. Whatever happens, it'll be fun. And this is why I have this balloon in the balloon house behind me. It's going to be uplifting. All right. So, Chelsea, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will see you on the 29th, and we'll see Hannah on Saturday.
Yep.
Okay.
You're amazing,
so much,
Chelsea.
Thank you.
I just adore you. Thank you so much.
Thank
See
you.
you soon. So,
Is she awesome? Can we just talk about how awesome she is for a second? I just and everything that she can do. It's like I haven't found a single thing that Chelsea doesn't do well. Because not only can she work a red carpet, and she's so great in talking to people, and she's so interesting, and but she can also sing like nobody's business too.
oh my God, you know what? You're right. I couldn't believe she performed. I think at a Autism Works Now event, right?
Denim and Diamonds. She performed at Denim and
Okay.
Diamonds. Got up and did like jazz standards.
No, it was
And
incredible.
everybody went, holy
Mind-blowing.
business.
She has this incredibly rich voice that's wonderful voice. I was
Amazing.
blown away by that, and so one of these days we're going to have her perform at a center event, because
I will want to be there.
everyone needs to see that.
She's amazing.
But the thing I love about Chelsea is there's no BS.
Yeah. But she's also kind and intelligent and considerate.
Yeah.
And, I know some people that are no BS, but it's like there's no filter, but that's not Chelsea. Chelsea's tactful. But you're right. She's not going to candy coat something. She's just remarkable. I would spend every day with her, chatting with her if I could, because she's just awesome.
She is. And just really been such a huge part of what we're doing here. And we're so grateful to her and her family.
This is the final seal of approval. The very last thing that we did before the pandemic was we came to your Valentine's Day party that you had at the center.
Right.
And my son had just turned 16. It was a different world then. Now he's just turned 18, but he just turned 16. And I was giving him the whole thing before we went about how, you have to ask girls to dance. You can't just come and be a wallflower. You have to ask girls to dance. And then we got there, and, it was like, oh. And I said to him, go ask Chelsea to dance first. Because you know why? I knew Chelsea would be a lady about it.
Yeah.
That she would be kind, that she would say, of course, that she would dance with him, and that he would then be like, oh, I can do this. And that's exactly what happened. So, when a mother is like, the seal of approval, I send my son to go ask her to dance. And she was a princess about it. She was, she's amazing. I adore her.
So we have a second story. So and you know about this story. So this young man, put my glasses on again, Tory Ridgway, he gets accepted into Embry-Riddle and gets a full ride from the Navy to because he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's amazing. We had him on Autism Live a couple of years ago. Great guest, intelligent young man, passionate, driven, hardworking.
So, on paper, literally the ultimate recruit for the Navy. They've hit the jackpot with this guy. And 2 weeks after he's accepted into this program, he gets a letter from the Navy saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we can't accept you because you're developmentally disabled and that you have an IEP, whatever. We can't offer you this once in a lifetime opportunity because you're autistic." And I mean, you hear that, and it's like, what? Yeah. A government agency is doing this, and it's just it cracks the outer shell of my head. I want to explode.
Well, isn't it interesting that up until a few years ago, if you were gay, you could not technically serve in the armed forces.
Exactly.
And then they said, well, it's don't ask, don't tell. And then eventually we get to the point where it's like, oh, right, it's perfectly okay. And look at how far behind autism is. Because right now in our armed forces, you are not allowed to serve if you have a diagnosis being on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And that has been the policy. I think at some point it was an unwritten policy, but right now it is a written policy. Now, I had said to Mom the other day that there have been people who have successfully been able to overcome that.
They've navigated.
Yes, but it takes a lot of navigation, and you have to jump through hoops that you wouldn't have to jump through. It's very sad to me. In the last few months, I was talking to Temple Grandin, and she was saying that there's a case right now of a pilot who disclosed and lost his pilot license, lost his job. He was a commercial pilot, and he was a
licensed pilot. He passed all the tests to become a licensed pilot. Was working as a pilot, and then somehow it came out that he had autism.
He self-disclosed, and he lost his job, lost his pilot license. And so she said, unfortunately, I feel that even though it's wrong, that to protect people in their place of work, she said, I'm telling people now, don't disclose until this era passes. And that hurt my heart to hear, because that's not the direction we want to be going in. But I do think that this is, I'm hopeful that together we can all work together to make sure that this young man gets his scholarship back and gets to go to school and gets to be a member of the ROTC and gets to serve. It is to our mutual benefit for him to get that.
I do believe they're reviewing it, and I certainly hope that they're smart about this and they see a valuable candidate, regardless of whether he is autistic or not, and have him on the merits of his tests and his grades. I think the whole thing's insane.
It is insane, and it's unfortunate, and it's very discriminatory. When, what's the Benedict Cumberbatch movie where he plays, it's a real life, the one I'm talking about where he was the code breaker, based on a true story of a man who broke the code that the Germans were writing during World War II, and he was on the spectrum. But he was able break the code because he had that kind of an analytical mind. And can you imagine
the Enigma machine?
Something like that.
Well, that film was devastating.
Oh,
it was devastating. Devastating film. And you're talking about something that happened in the 1940s. We're not talking about something that happened, a long time ago. But I mean, it was illegal to be gay in the UK in the 40s. They would terrorize you and your family, and this film depicts it in just an awful way. And thank God we've progressed in life. And I think but this stuff still exists, and to see this kid celebrate this victory with his father and reading the letter that is of his acceptance to Embry-Riddle, to see him, the joy in his face and in his way, it was devastating for me to know that was ripped away from him.
I got to tell you too, I feel like there's this interesting thing right now that because there's been one generation of kids who have gotten good therapy. Many of them have gotten to the point where they're able to go and do things that previously we thought they couldn't go and do. They're able to deal with the stress and the pressure of certain things. And one of the things that this mom had said to me was, he's gotten to the point where for a lot of things, he no longer qualifies for an autism diagnosis. Like, so he doesn't get the benefit of, the things that, what the diagnosis would get him.
Right.
But there are other things that he's being discriminated against because he had the diagnosis that he got when he was younger. And we're seeing that there's this chasm where some of the kids are falling into, where it's like, they don't qualify for the disability anymore, but they still qualify for the stigma. How horrible is that?
Yeah.
And of course, we need to get rid of the stigma for everybody.
Well, and you hear all the time about parents that are reluctant to accept an autism diagnosis because of the stigma. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, that just makes no sense. I guess on one level I understand it, but on the other level, I think it's just, you want to actually put more hurdles in front of your child than trying to take them away. It's just, the whole thing is crazy to me.
Listen, I would rather, as bad as this is right now, I believe that as a community, we're going to be able to help this family overcome this.
Yeah. Because
it's not right. And it's like one of those things that's not based on a human being. Once you meet this kid, I think they're gonna see the right thing. And if not, we'll take to the streets and we'll carry signs and we'll yell and scream on behalf of this family.
You know what? You just said something that's so important. We're not acting like human beings.
What's a box?
When this stuff happens, that's not human. It's just something. It's something completely different. And we have to be more human. We have to be a better society, a better people, and maybe COVID can help do that. That we can come together and we got through that. Let's get through all this, and let's just come together as a people.
Don't you feel like, though, Matt, some people are just using COVID as an excuse for like having to lower the expectations for some things?
Of course.
I mean, I know I love Disney and I love Disneyland, and we went to Disneyland last week and I love Disneyland. And there were some people at Disneyland who were amazing and were still doing Disneyland care. But I did run into some people working at Disneyland who were like, oh, we're not taking care of individuals anymore because it's COVID. I heard that from a couple of people and it massively turned me off. But wow. I will say, I'm sorry, what?
I said, no kidding.
Yeah, no. And there was one woman that was talking to me and excuse me, all I was trying to do was order something gluten-free and casein-free for my child. And this woman was telling me, oh, we can't do that. And I was like, but you can. I know that you can. You're Disneyland and you do this very well. I just need to speak to the chef. And she said to me, she goes, it's COVID. We can't do it because it's COVID. And I said, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. I forgot it's COVID. I'll tell my child not to have 2 allergies. And she didn't think I was funny, but she sent me around.
I'm actually surprised to hear that.
It was not typical Disney. I will tell you, though, there's a very happy end to it that I went around the corner to the next restaurant. I went to the River Bell Terrace, and they had a chef there named Jojo who came out, and he was like, I got you on this. You're fine. Your son is fine. It's all going to be fine. He did tableside service. He gave us the Disney service. But, but we're seeing some, like the first gal, I was like, what is this? And I said to her, this is not the Disney way. And she said, oh, but it's COVID. And I was like, it's still not the Disney way. But I think that some people are using it as an excuse.
Was this last week?
It was on the 14th, the day
Oh,
before the reopening.
If you had been on the 15th, it's like, what? You're wrong. There is no COVID.
Oh, I know. No, it was the day before the big grand reopening.
So they can't
but again, I got the best service around the corner from Jojo, the chef at the Riverbell Terrace. He was beyond, like, off the chart, Disney fabulous.
Well, I'm going there, so I'm going to look for Jojo the chef, and I'm going to say, "Hey, Shannon says hi."
I'm not kidding you. He'll remember we had the soup Nazi masks on that say "No soup, no mask, no soup."
No mask, no soup.
And he loved those. He was
okay.
I might send one with you if you tell me when you're going. If you're serious, I might send a mask for Jojo.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost out of time. What have you been watching?
You know what we're knee deep in right now. So we did watch The Heights last night, but we just started season 4 of Handmaid's Tale. So what are you watching?
Well, let's see. We're watching something called Katla.
Oh, I got to write this down.
Katla, which is it's a Icelandic Netflix show about people coming back from the dead after a volcano erupts.
All right. So, I think you guys, Nava likes grittier things than I like.
She does. Yeah, we both do, actually. So so we like that. We like Sweet Tooth a lot. I thought that was really good.
I've heard good things about that.
I thought that was really good. We were sorry that ended. We watched Fatherhood the other day, and that was pretty decent.
Fatherhood. I don't look at you. Kevin always Hart. Know these things I don't know about.
Well, that's because we're home all the time, and
we are too. But we're years behind. We had never seen an episode of Game of Thrones until COVID, and now it's taken me all this time. Now we've watched Handmaid's Tale, and we're just into season 4, and I'm like freaking out. Have you seen this?
That's pretty gritty.
Man, it's kicking my keister. It is kicking my keister. But we liked it. In the Heights. Have you seen In the Heights?
I haven't seen that yet. I saw the preview for it. But
I gotta say, Matt, like, we're hearing all this criticism of it. I watched, and you talk about being correct and on the right side of things. Lin-Manuel Miranda had to come out and apologize the other day because everybody was saying that it's such a whitewashed version of The Heights. And listen, I am the whitest woman who was ever born in Puerto Rico, but I did not see a whitewashed version of Washington Heights at all. I don't know. Am I just missing it? I'd love to hear other people's opinion.
Well, I will watch it. What is it on?
It's on HBO Max, or you can see it in the movie theater.
I will watch it, but I'll tell you the one that I'm really looking forward to is West Side Story. I don't know when that's coming out, but
to
me, it's one of my favorite musicals of all time, and the fact that they're doing it again is exciting to me. So
I'm looking forward to that.
Is doing it. So
I love. Can't wait to see that. I'm trying to think what it is that we were all excited about. Well, but the horrible thing that we watch when it's summer is we watch Big Brother. And everyone's opinion of me just went. We do.
Not at all. I mean, I don't think I've ever watched Big Brother. Maybe 1 or 2 episodes. I used to know the executive producer of that show, and I visited him a couple times on the set, which is interesting. We'll have to talk about that.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that.
But I've never really watched the show. I think I watched it once or twice when there was someone who's autistic that was on. I think I watched it a couple times. But the ones that I used to watch that were reality shows, I really don't watch that anymore, not that much. But I watched Amazing Race quite a bit. And Survivor back in the day, before it was like year 25.
Right.
So now I think I watched like season 10 was the last one. So
I watch a fair amount of reality, but I like good reality. You know what I mean? But I guess that's all in your tastes. But I like Big Brother. You see a cross section of humanity, And we've seen many seasons where autism becomes front and center, and it was last summer, front and center.
I'll tell you, I think it's a great way of showcasing characters, reality TV. I think that they're many rich characters on reality television, and I think they do a great job at presenting them.
Yeah.
So
it'd be interesting.
All right. Well, when is Big Brother coming on?
I think it starts on July 6th. And
Okay.
you know what comes out on the 9th is the 4th and final season of Atypical.
Yes. When is that? July 9th?
July 9th.
Okay.
I just finished pre-taping an interview with 2 of the actors from that.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So I can't give away plot points, but it's worth watching.
Okay. Well, I love that show. And it'll be interesting to see where they go. And there's a really great show. And the reason I think it's a great show is because the autism is not front and center. It's a part of the character. It's a part of who he is. And he has his own world. Everyone else has their own world. And it's like everything comes together. And I think, to me, they do it very well. And they've done a great job at presenting it. And they've done a great job at representing the autism community. So
yes. In fact, I just had in the pre-tape 2 of the actors who are on the spectrum that were featured and are hilarious in this 4th and final season. So we should trade notes because I'm sure they would love to be on your show.
I would love to do that. I probably know them. So
I bet you do. I bet you do.
So
I would
okay.
be disappointed if you didn't. Wonderful. Will you please give your love to all of your family, especially to Mr. Will? We're so proud. I watched his graduation online, and he was so amazing.
He was incredible, and he gave a nice speech, and
yes,
he seemed so adult. I think he's actually watching right now. So Will, I'm proud of you. And we have another kid graduating next year, high school. So we'll have to do it again next year. And Eddie's turning 13 tomorrow.
I can't even believe that. It's like they're all growing up.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
We're going to be parents of amazing young men. Well, they are young men now, but they're going to be men.
It's
crazy.
Men. I know the song. Okay. It's raining men.
Talk.
It's raining men.
I love that song.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna end the show here and say that it's always a pleasure to chit chat with you. You are have a wonderful mind, and you're so engaging, and I love chatting with you. You're always invited to do this show. You're always invited to be a guest host. You're always invited to join us, whoever.
Likewise.
And we love you.
I love you back. Give my love to everybody. I'll see you soon.
Okay, and to everyone out there, we love you, and we will see you soon. And until we meet again next week, keep your seatbelt fastened. Bye-bye.